All right, welcome to another broadcast. Today is Sunday, July 27th, 2025. Another wonderful day out here. We're going to give people a few minutes before joining in. And we're going to have a good one, I think, today on this broadcast. So stay tuned. Again, we're going to give people about a minute and change to get in, and then we're going to get started, okay? All right, music is still, you gonna leave me hanging there, music? Okay, let's get, there you go. I had to wake the band up here. Okay, we got under a minute before we get started. All right. Welcome to another broadcast. So glad that you guys can join us today. Just trying to get my stuff here together here, and you guys will have my complete undivided attention here. Anyway, let's go ahead and stop that. Okay, good. There you go. Welcome. Hope you guys having a great day today. The temperature here in the beautiful state of Arizona, 107 degrees. 107 degrees. It's cooking out here, but it's nice. And before I say anything else, listen, every now and then I get comments where people say, well, your title said this and you didn't get to the point. And, I got money. Time is money and money's time. You got to get to the point. I'm not for you. Okay. I'm not for you. It's just simple as that. I'm very confident in that. I'm not for you. I'm not. Okay. It's just what it is. I do get to the point. And when I get to the point, I'm always extremely detailed and I take my time. Okay. So if you're looking, and I do, when I tell you I understand metrics and all that, I totally get it. When you do your video, your thumbnail, you got to make sure you grab people's attention right there at second number 5 and all that. That's not me. I'm not wanting to ride that train. Okay. I'm not. And that comes with a great cost. I understand. I get that. But I'm getting in my years where I don't really care about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I'm here. You want to hear it? Great. If not, that's okay. They got a little button that they gave you. Yeah, it's called the fast forward button. So if you want to jump ahead and, if it's not alive, you could do that. Okay. But I'm just letting you know up front. I'm not, I'm not that person. Okay. Okay. I'm not, but yes, we are going to get to it. And, hey, we got Hebrew Awakening, super chat, $20. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate that. And for everybody else that's slowly joining us today, welcome. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. Because, see, I'm human. I want to be human. Okay, can I be human? Like today, I want to tell you, because it gets hot out here, and I have been eyeing for a very long time these, they have these misters. Now, depending on where you are, I know my our friends and stuff like in Texas and down south, those outdoor restaurants, how they had those misters out there. I have been eyeing those for so long. And then finally we went and got it and I put it in. And for the first time, I've been able to sit in our backyard in over 100-degree weather. And it's like, wow, it feels good out here. And it didn't even take long to put it in. And so, yes. And to boot, our state, they don't add fluoride to the water. So that's even better. But I'm sure it's like chlorine or whatever, but I'll take it, and so, yeah, it really does make a difference. And if you've been following our platform over on Sober Tree YouTube page, on our brain series, we've talked about the benefits of humidity. Why is that so? Why is humidity something very important, especially to us who have melanin? Okay, if you got melanin, you need to have some humidity in your life. And I know for those y'all down south, you're like, okay, we got plenty of it. You want some? No, I don't, because it come with bugs. I don't want them. Okay, but humidity is very important for us that have, that have a lot of melanin. Okay, and so I don't have it in here today, but I usually have my humidifier going on. You need to make sure you got that humidity going on in your life, and I go through the details on the impact it had, the positive impact it has on your brain function. There's a correlation between humidity and your brain function. We get into that, and I'm not going to get into that now, but there's a reason why you are made the way you are. Okay, so humidity, the way your hair texture is, all that stuff, all of that is very important. Okay. So, yeah, so having those misters and all that, it definitely gives me another dimension on where I can get my humidity. And, of course, as we always say, make sure you're getting plenty of sunlight, okay? Make sure you get in that. Okay, so today we got a few things we're going to talk about. Some of y'all have seen this thing. I have been very impressed. I was very impressed when I saw this. It was on TikTok. It's a braid shop. It's an African braid shop I believe in the Maryland area. And it's a 24-hour braid shop. I thought it was really, I saw it. I'll show you the video, and I have some thoughts, but overall, I'm really impressed, and that's actually pretty good. And, that's it, so we'll get into that. We're also going to talk about this whole thing, this hysteria that is going on right now in the white community. White people are getting together. Oh my God. And they're actually building a community. Dun, dun, dun. They're building a community. White people are. This is the first time ever in history white people have decided to build their own community. Oh my gosh. We're going to have to get on top of this. Well, we're going to look at this in layers. Okay. We're going to look at this in layers because there's several layers in this, okay? And my warning to you ahead of time is black folks don't get duped into this, okay? That's my warning. I'll just put that out there for you, okay? If you've been following this platform, we have been riding. We have been getting on folks, black folks, particularly in the medical industry, who basically scared the hell into our elders and to people like ourselves to try to get you to take that what a few years ago and all of that. And now when all of these peer-reviewed tests are coming out and they're telling us the result of this stuff, they're nowhere to be found, and you don't hear anything about them. I mean, you've also heard us talk about how these doctors were incentivized to push this thing in the first place, right? And I've been telling you, I said, listen, excuse me, out of a few doctors that I'm aware of, I'm talking about black doctors, the majority of them haven't been saying anything. And today I have come across another doctor, a black doctor. She's not talking about that, but she's actually giving us some more of a behind the scenes on the relationship between doctors and the insurance company. And I'm gonna play that clip for you. That should be very interesting. We're also going to talk about, I came across another clip of this is a guy, it's a young black guy who was leading the charge when it comes to Amazon becoming unionized in New York City. Well, you won't believe where he is now. And when I tell you paid informant all the way, paid informant, paid ops, he's definitely has earned his stripes on this. And then finally, we're going to talk, we're going to get into the topic of math or mathematics. And that is one that I really hope you stick around and listen to, because that one, it's connected to so many things. And you don't want to miss that, okay? So even if you're not, a math is not something that's interesting to you, you're going to want to hear this and why it's so important. I'm talking specifically as it pertains to us as black folks, okay? So that's all, for the most part, what we're going to talk about today. But real quick, I want to remind you, again, we have a 20% off sale going on right now over at sambatree.com. Sambatree.com. That sale is still going on, but we are winding it up, okay? 20% all throughout the store. There's going to be a few things it doesn't apply to, but for the most part, it applies to the entire store, from bitters to powders to herbs to creams to dental stuff, everything. 100% natural, all for you, for the betterment of your health and wellness. Make sure you check out our website. Again, it's sambatree.com. 20% off. Don't wait till the last minute, because it's winding. I'm looking at the calendar right now. We're getting very close to the cutoff date. So you want to make sure you jump on that right now, okay? You can be ordering and going through the store while I'm talking, okay? Again, the website is sambatree.com. The other thing I got to report, the class that Nicole taught on the alternate day fasting, we already got somebody who is already losing some poundage, and that's very exciting. So we're still putting some final touches on a few things, on the site for that to really give you all the information. I mean, we pretty much put it out there, but there's a few things Nicole wanted me to add to the site, so we're going to be putting that on. But yes, you can, even if you missed the class, you can still sign, you can still be a part of it and see the recording of it. And you'll also get all the information and stuff that was handed out. You'll get access to a support group with real people, not AI. You ain't chatting to AI. You're chatting with real people. You're getting encouragement, real encouragement. This is why we are very serious. We're not dead serious. We're alive serious, okay? We are alive serious about this. We're not just talking. You get in this thing, and if you're serious, we serious, okay? Well, we're serious anyway. There will be results, and we're already seeing them now. Just like in the past when we were very serious about getting people, to see some changes in their blood pressure. They have blood pressure issues. We're committed to that, and we have been getting report after report after report. This is another thing we were doing. So we're very serious when it comes to this kind of stuff. So all of this other mess, gobbledygook stuff that's happening in the world today, if we can get this, we'll be able to handle all of that, okay? So make sure you check that out. Again, all of that is over at sambatree.com. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our first story here. Let me see. I downloaded it, but did I move it over to my computer? Probably not. But let me go ahead and do this. This is a braiding shop. I believe it's in Maryland. It's in the Maryland area. And really, really neat idea. It's an African braiding shop, and they had an idea of putting together this braid. Now, many of you have seen braiding shops before, and you may be saying, well, what's the big deal? Well, this one, a little bit different. I'm going to play this video for you and take a look, and let's continue and let's see. Okay, here we go.
Have y'all heard about this place? So it's a braiding shop in Bowie, Maryland, but they're 24 hours. And I heard apparently if you go on like a slower day, there's no wait. You're in and out for your services. I also heard that they have over 106 chairs in this place. Y'all, you mean to tell me you can come in and just walk in because there's no appointments any time of the day, any day of the week, even holidays? This place do not close. They wash hair for extra price. They have all different types of styles that they do. They include the hair. They got a kids section in there. I'm blown away. I don't know about y'all, but I am stunned. And even a photo section, a red carpet for when you walk out and go pay that moolah. I gotta try this place out. Have y'all heard about it? This is their front entrance and it's beautiful. They'd have gray hair. Bring your mama in, your grandma in. It's just something to see. And y'all, I'm just passing on the word. Word on the street. It ain't like I do the marketing or nothing. Come and see us, niece.
Anyway, I thought it was I was like, wow, that's a really interesting concept. Really interesting. A braiding shop that's open 24/7. From what I understand. And you can go in there and, ladies, if you're in the area, I think as far as the location, I think there's an excellent location. If you're in the Maryland area, there's a lot of folks out there that, there's a huge market out there, for that. 24 hours, Nicole, she had asked me, she said, well, why you need to braiding shop open all late? I said, well, you got ladies that I'm sure they work different hours, maybe they need to get their hair braided before while their kids asleep or something. But all in all, I think is a pretty good idea, and it's funny because it's, I didn't think of that. That's great. It's so said it's like a Buc-ee's for hair. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of like that. But the thing that really, what's funny is, what isn't funny, I should say, is this is in the midst of, what we've been hearing about. People gonna boycott African shops and gonna boycott, African restaurants and all this other stuff. But again, like I always say, what you hear online isn't a true representation of the whole. Okay. There are plenty of black folks out here that are like, man, whatever. I'm just looking for somebody that's going to do the job and going to do it right. And y'all want to be arguing and stuff online. You can do that. You got fools on both sides of this whole argument, on the African side and the Black American side. You're going to, people that will always want to stir up something. But thankfully, it doesn't represent the whole. And I thought, I'm just going back in my mind here when I was thinking, they said they had they had a whole braiding section for children. I thought that was neat. What would also be neat too is if they had something for, or if they had braiders that were there for like, children that are autistic. Now that would be something too. There's a few barbers that specialize in that. We got autistic children out here that, when it comes to sitting for a very long period of time or, getting their hair cut or whatever, it takes a very special person to handle that. And that would be neat. I don't know if they have that, but that would be a good idea. But they have a section for kids. They got a section for once your hair gets dead, you can go and take your glamour shot and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, this is really something. This is really, really neat. I really like that. I'm liking that, great idea. Then I had to think the other side. I said, the reality is that things like this, unfortunately, because with the demographic, it comes with that. Right. And so, some of the thoughts I had, I said, just make sure you have extra security. That's number one. Your security's got to be on point. You do. It really does. I mean, cameras pretty much everywhere. That's a must. If that was me, it's not my shop, but if that was me, I would have things cameraed up all over the place. Why? Because not talking theft as in someone coming in and taking stuff. But again, I'm talking the reality here. Okay. I know some of y'all don't like that, but this is the reality. You got folks that will come in and get their whole hair did, and and then they, people be jetting out the back door, so you want to make sure I got you on camera. You know what I'm saying? So you want to make sure that, making sure, also, you got security for a place that size. You need a security team. And I ain't talking about breathing, security people breathing down folks' neck. I ain't talking about that. But I mean, you need to have some security up in there, like not security, Securitas. Yeah, I used to work for them. But not security where, the guy, he got half a security shirt on and then his pants halfway down and he on his phone most of the time and he hitting on the women and all that stuff. No, you need to get real security up in there. You know what I'm saying? And this is for the benefit of maintaining the peace. You know what I'm saying? Ladies want to go in there and get their hair done. You want to keep it in the most peaceful environment. Unfortunately, you're going to have to do these things. You know what I mean? Don't be naive and think that you could just do something like that and you're not taking what I'm saying, under consideration, because you must have this. You must have this. And then the other thought I had is, when it comes to payment, you may have to get people to pay beforehand. You know what I'm saying? Especially in this day and age. That way there's no mess, because your mindset's got to be get them in and get them out. You know what I'm saying? It can't be any mess at all. Now that's for the employee side. Now for the employer, I'm sorry, not the employee side. That's for the customer side. Now for the employee side, there needs to be some type of standard set for the braiders. Because if you got some braiders in there, they got stinky attitude, or they're not doing stuff right, or they're overcharging. There needs to be some type of metric system set up to where these braiders, there is a sense of healthy competition on who can do the best, who can provide the best customer service. You know what I'm saying? There needs to be something along those lines, so that to ensure that the customers are getting the best service possible. You know what I'm saying? And that you're not just housing people on these benches here that are just in there because they just need a job. No, you need to have the best of the best in there. You know what I'm saying? So this is just me on the sidelines. As you can see, I have no need to get my hair braided because I'm, too late. I thought for a microsecond in getting them glued in stuff. I thought, when I say a microsecond, literally a microsecond, I said, there's no way I'm doing that. No way I'm putting some glue on my head. That's number one. I'm not doing that. I'm not. If it ain't my hair, I'm not putting it on. And I'm in Arizona. There's no way. I don't know how the ladies do it. I don't know how they be over 100 degrees and got a whole hair hat. I don't know how y'all do it, but they do. But I'm not doing that. It's just something about that just don't sit right with me anyway. I mean, it don't sit right with me. But anyway, I thought that was a really good idea. I hope it works out for them. And I like when people really think outside the box. You know what I mean? And something that's kind of creative, and they put a lot of thought in it and all of that. So I'm just, hope to see more video content come out where people are actually talking about this thing. Speaking of business, I was going to make this into a short, but I might as well just share it. Woo, what is going on? It's like hiccup / low key burp kind of thing going on. So I know that's disgusting, but I don't know I'm sorry, y'all. But I wanted to share this quick video. I wasn't even thinking to share this with you, but might as well since I'm here. I was in Sprouts. Sprouts is like a health food, natural grocery store that we have out here. And I'm sure, depending on where you live, they probably have them too. But let me share with you these 2 short video clips that I took while I was there today. And what these videos, real quick, what I'm addressing is, because a lot of people don't realize this, and this is kind of going back on the whole Target thing, where you had a lot of black folks who were assuming that somehow Target, because they got rid of DEI, they just went through and snatched all the black people products off of the shelves because they didn't want to have anything to do with black people. And I was like, no, this is not how retail markets work. They don't. Okay, they don't operate like this. The only color they're interested in is money, is green. That's the only color that they're interested in. And if you have a business, if you have a product that's doing very well, you're going to do very well on, and you're selling and all of that. You're going to do well. You're going to be on the shelf. But if people aren't buying your products, well, they're going to take you off. And they don't care if you black, white, whatever. It doesn't matter. It happens all the time. So I wanted to show people just an example of this, of a product that I found in Sprouts. Okay, so let me see if this is it. Is this the first one? Let me see. 80, 79. Okay, it's 79. All right, so take a look at this. All right. Hold on. Here we go.
Okay, so this is an example of what I'm talking about. You know, when you go into the grocery store, there are each shelf position you see, the manufacturers have to pay for that. All these different manufacturers, they have to pay for these slots, right? Some do well, some don't, right? And so usually when you come in the back, unfortunately, this is the shelf where some of them don't do as well. So here's one right here. I've never heard of this company. What their brand is called Baked Cravings. And this is the price you see is discontinued. Flip it over in the back. It's a black man. I was like, oh man, that's pretty cool. Craig Watson. This is his brand right here. So if you're familiar with him, go check him out. So good product. I never tasted it or anything, but I mean, it's nicely packaged, the whole nine, but for whatever reason, it's been discontinued here. So they're getting rid of it. So for people, so I'm just doing this as an example because when it comes to Target, people want to conclude that Target is just randomly pulling black people off the shelves. This isn't Target. I'm actually in another store, but Target works the same way. If your brand does well, you stay on the shelf. If it doesn't do well, you end up here, you know. And so as much as I hope this man makes it and does well, the reality is, at least in this market, he's not selling. So this is not an issue of him being snatched off because of racism, because there are other products down there I could take you to that are black products that are still on the shelves because people are buying them. So I just wanted to bring this out because a lot of times people think that these retailers are just pulling people off the shelves because they're black, and that's not the case at all. A lot of times, like in this case here, they just don't do well, and this is what happens. This is all part of it.
And so so you get the point there. Okay, so so a lot of times we go into the grocery store as customers, we don't really think about the competition, the enormous amount of competition that all of these manufacturers are engaged in. When you go into the grocery store, they have to be able to grab your attention and within seconds. So if you're looking for potato chips, for example, you go down the potato chip aisle, right? Look at all the different brands of potato chips. But why is it that they go to yours? Why should I go to yours? Well, the first thing is it's the packaging. The packaging is what catches the eye, right? And so they have to invest in, usually it's a pretty fair amount of money to make sure that their packaging stands out. Then whatever the main message is that you're trying to push out, like we use nothing but avocado oil, or, there's no trans fats or whatever it is, that main messaging that, because of your marketing research, that has to be at the very front so people will see that. So there's all kinds of things you got to do to make sure you stand out. So when we go into the grocery store as a customer, you're not even thinking that. You're just like, la, 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 la. Okay, I feel like this, or I'm having a taste for that, or whatever. And so you are not necessarily going down every aisle and looking at everything. Your eye is automatically going to be attracted to the packaging, the messaging, that kind of stuff, right? And the food can be good. I mean, it could be awesome what you're making, but if the packaging alone isn't right, you'll get passed over, And so I did end up buying it. pretty good. It's pretty good. It ain't nasty. It's pretty good. So I bought it just to buy it. Because I saw it. I was like, man, let me help the brother out, man. And so, but yeah, so that's that. So now let me show you a product that I found that is by somebody that I think many of you know. Let me get that video out and take a look. Okay, so this is Michael B. Jordan's product. It's called Moss. It's a sea moss beverage. He, again, clearly a black-owned product line, and it's been on the shelf here for a while. And so clearly people are buying it because it's been out here for a while. So here's an example of a black entrepreneur whose product is still on the shelf. Okay, so a couple of things. One, if you notice, his product was all the way on the bottom. Okay, and then Nicole reminded me, with your product, if you're on bottom shelf, that typically means you're almost out of here. That, you're making sales, but it ain't, people just ain't buying it. I've actually purchased that. His drink, I could see why it's probably not selling, just with the taste. Great idea with the sea moss in it. But, people like flavor too, and it wasn't a whole lot of, I told Nicole, I said, only way I would describe it, it's kind of, at least the one I got. If you're drinking it because it's got good stuff in it, not so much of the flavor. I'm not dissing them. I'm just saying I would judge any product like that. You know what I'm saying? And, because I am very hopeful, it's just that at least in this market where I am in this region, it's not selling. And it apparently is not selling as much, but it is doing a lot better than that other one. But we can go in store after store after store. There are many black entrepreneurs that are on these shelves that have been there before there was even a DEI or anything, many cases of that. Some do very well, some don't. But again, when you step back and think about all the things that any manufacturer has to put together just so that they can compete, it's an enormous task. And that's before you even get to the flavor of the product or what's in. You got to first capture the attention of the customer who's only glancing for a few seconds on that shelf. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to share that. I wasn't planning on, it wasn't on my list to share, but I wanted to share that because, a lot of people, when they talk about these things, they're talking out of ignorance, and it's easy for them to just jump to racism when they don't even attempt to understand the business side of it and what really goes into play here. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to show y'all that. That was something I just saw today. And, of course, while I was there, I got my watermelon. So anyway, because watermelon, you don't need, it's either there or it ain't, ain't no brand names when it comes to that. But anyway, so let me move on to this story here. As you guys know, there's a lot of talk that's going on regarding this canoe community in Arkansas. Dun, dun, dun. It is a white community. Oh my gosh. These white people got together and they said, we're going to build our own community. Okay, let's read the article. Let's read about it and let's see what these dastardly white people, what are they doing? Okay, so let's get to it. Okay, so it's Arkansas, I guess Attorney General slams whites only community that might be expanding to Missouri. All right, let's read it. The Attorney General for Arkansas says his office is looking into a white supremacist group that has effectively created a whites only community in his state and is seeking to expand its footprint to Missouri, or some of y'all Midwesterners, you pronounce it as Missouri. Okay. Where y'all don't say soda, you say pop. Okay, whatever. Anyway, Republican Attorney General Tim Griffin has pursued bigoted initiatives in his own right, as evidenced by his participation in a right-wing crusade against diversity and school lesson plans that discuss racial injustice. but a whites only anti-Jewish community. That's it. There's your flag right there, y'all. It's because it's anti-Jewish, okay? Above anything else we say in this article, this is what it's about. But let's continue. And but a whites only anti-Jewish community formed in Arkansas by a white supremacist group that calls itself Return to the Land is apparently a step too far for the AG's eyes. Group co-founder Eric Orwell recently garnered national attention for the segregated community he helped launch on roughly 150 acres in northeast Arkansas. And he garnered more attention this week after revealing that his group might launch a community in Springfield, Missouri, with his self-expressed motives basically amounting to racist, anti-diversity, hysteria. Okay. Whites should have the ability to live amongst their own people if that's what they want to do. And mass immigration is quickly making that clearly impossible in many Western nations, Orwell told KOLR TV, the CBS affiliate in San Francisco and Springfield. If individuals decide to live in multiracial communities, then they should be allowed to do so. But we don't want racial forced on us in every aspect of our lives. Oh, someone said, no, we say soda. Okay, well, you won. I know I've come across people, some people say pop, and I'm like, oh, okay, I think I know where you're from. Let's see. Vince, I'll get to your comment in a moment. I just see a bit of it. Let me get to this part first and I'll get to your comment. Okay. But good to see you. Orwell, who also told the outlet that he plans to help start communities in all 50 states, has effectively asserted a form of sovereign citizens argument in claiming that the group is allowed to discriminate because he says they are doing so on private land, according to The Independent. The Arkansas AG said in a statement, racial discrimination has no place in Arkansas or anywhere in free society. These allegations raise all sorts of legal issues, including constitutional concerns. My office is reviewing the matter. And I'll just read the last part. Orwell's plans for racially communities that exclude Jews echo visions. Here we go. Here's the key part. Echoes. It didn't say it does. It is. It echoes visions pursued by white supremacist groups before his, like the Ku Klux Klan and Return to the Land ethos, centered on an old-timey vision of a white utopia where residents can live and thrive off of Earth's resources without having to share them with non-white people, and non-Christians also shares themes with the homesteader movement that's popular amongst American conservatives. Now, this has a whole lot in it that we are going to break down. Number one, and, I don't hold back on this platform. I'm just going to tell it like it is, and that's it. This whole thing, what's really getting the people who are really bothered by this, it's not really, you got black folks that are chiming in on this, just because. But it's really the part that I just highlighted. It's really Jewish. They don't like the fact that this group doesn't like Jews. And the reason why I say that is because, again, the Jews will tell you themselves who actually controls a hefty percentage of the media. They will tell you themselves. It's them. So anything like this, they are going to jump on it. Number two, when it comes to, and so the way the article is written, as you said, as I said, the way the article is written, it's written to basically to hook in a certain demographic of a certain age. And when I say a certain demographic of a certain age, I'm talking black folks that are I would say over 55 years old and older. Because when you hear a whites only community, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Jim Crow South, right? Where black people were excluded from things. So that's automatically going to hook in the emotions of a lot of black folks, right? But here's the thing. Let's kind of pull back here for a second. If you got a group of white people who are saying that they want to build a community that's kind of out somewhere, they bought their land, they're going to grow their fruits and vegetables and do whatever it is. They want to hunt, fish, or whatever. They want to raise their children. Let me ask you something. How does that bother you? Let's be real for a second, okay? Because there's, like I said again, there's layers to this. How does that bother you? How does that bother your day to day? If a group of white people said that they want to build a community where it's just them and they really don't want anybody of a different color coming in there, how does that bother you? What's the answer? Don't go there. It's simple. This is not Jim Crow South in that where you have a shared community of people where, if I'm the only grocery store in town, and it's white people who control it, whatever, but the people who control it are saying, hey, listen, we don't want black people, you got to come in through the back or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? If it's something like that, now we're talking a whole different scenario here, which does need to be roundly condemned. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about people who want to buy, they got their plot of land and they're going to be away from most people. They're going to build their own whatever. And that's it. How does that bother you? How does that bother me? And I would imagine in that kind of lifestyle, they're probably homeschooling and all of that. So they don't really need any, they're not really pulling from any resources like that, right? How does that bother you? Why is this attorney general so hot and bothered by this? I mean, I don't understand. But let's go a little bit deeper here. For the black folks who are really hot and bothered by this, and like I said again, honestly, I see black folks that are chiming in on this and acting all scary or whatever. But really, I don't think black folks all in all are really losing any sleep over this. Not really. It's a segment that are doing that, but I don't think black folks all in all that losing any sleep over this. But here's the thing, for the ones that are losing sleep, let me ask you something. If white people building their own communities is such a bother, then why is it that you flee to them? You understand what I'm saying? There is a such thing called black flight where, and this is where I take strong issue when I hear, people who want to, identify with this cult, and that's what I call it, FBA, Foundational Black American. I get what they're saying, but it's a cult. It's a cult mindset and all that. I get what they're saying, but I don't agree with a lot of their tactics. I don't agree with it. But I do get the whole point of the delineation between black Americans and black Americans as, us making sure that there's a distinction between who you call black American versus, people who come over from Africa, people who come over from the Caribbean. I get all of that and I understand. And to a certain extent, I agree with it. You know what I'm saying? But there are some nuances in there that I strongly disagree with. And one of it is, of course I know, and I've called this out, when you hear Africans saying some derogatory things towards black Americans, that needs to be called out and it needs to be exposed. Same thing with people from the Caribbean, that needs to be called out and exposed. But for me as a black American, I have seen the same rhetoric going that way as well. And the rhetoric I'm hearing, unfortunately, sounds too much like a lot of the rhetoric I would hear coming from white supremacists. And so that I don't like, and that I don't agree with. So when I hear, black Americans, not all, but like I said, there's a certain segment that will accuse Africans or accuse Caribbeans of being, you fleeing from your land. And, if you all that, then why don't you go back to your land and build it? Okay, well, that's a pretty fair argument. But that argument also has to come back on you. Why is it that we have seen over quite a few decades now, black folks who are able to fleeing? You may not want to call that, but that's what it is. Fleeing black communities and going to the suburbs where they are predominantly white. And you are not going back to those communities to help build those up. You're not doing it. So the things that you're accusing these Africans of doing and these Caribbeans are doing, there's a lot of black folks that are doing the same things here. So we have to be honest when we're saying stuff like that, because the same things are being practiced here. But the bigger point is that if white people deciding to live amongst themselves, if that's such a big threat, then why is it that we have so many black folks over decades who have been running to live in their communities because they feel a sense of safety? That says a whole lot. You understand? And so I don't have an issue with if these white people want to build their own whatever communities and stuff, they do it. You know what I'm saying? This ain't bothering me any. I mean, I don't, and it's sure enough ain't bothering you. And they ain't trying. And for you listen to some of these people here, that doesn't mean I'm pro-white. It don't make me, you ain't gonna see no Dixie flag behind me or anything like that. I'm just simply saying, hey, that's what it's supposed to be in the first place. I don't see any issue with that at all. Just like I don't see an issue with black folks wanting to build their own space. I don't see an issue with that. I've never had an issue with that. But I did have an issue. Oh, we got a super chat from MXINF. I ain't gonna even try to pronounce that. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. But yeah, I ain't got no issue. I don't have any issue at all. If black folks want to get together and build their own communities, I'm like, you go and do it. Go big. And I did a whole video. If you go on our community page, I actually talked about this on our community page. I did a whole video where I gave some recent examples of black folks doing this. Then, unfortunately, those examples weren't really good examples. I'll give you one right here, because a lot of people now are remembering this. I did a whole video. I did my own investigation on this. This is it right here. You guys remember in Georgia, in the state of Georgia, there was a group of black folks, families that got together, and they said, we're going to buy, I forgot, it was a little over 100 acres of land down in like rural South Georgia. And you see here, Freedom, Georgia is Black Wall Street of the New South. They got a ton of coverage on this, a ton of coverage. And, you know, you see all these families on here. You see men and women on there and all that. I showed you the chronological order of how the coverage was. Like I said, in our, for people like, oh, you got to get to the point. You know, those are like that. I like taking my time and I like going through the details. And so that's what I did. So I went through the details in this, and I showed you in the beginning. You see how these photos, I could show you more photos. They show photos. It was like men and the husbands and the wives and the children. They all running and, you know, having fun and waving and doing all this stuff here. And then over time, what happened? You start the men, you ain't see no men anymore. Next thing you know, it was just, it was like 3 or 4 women. And then you notice all the coverage was focused on them. They were saying that these women are the ones that actually started. Now, for me, I personally don't have an issue with that. I don't care. But I did find that very interesting. And then as I kept going and digging even further, what I then discovered is that as of last year, I believe, because they bought this land back in 2018. We're in 2025, but as of, I think, last year, they have not built a doggone thing on there yet. And the 3 or 4 ladies that were considered the founders, I showed you, we went to their Instagram page. They ain't saying nothing about this. They done moved on to something else. They're doing some boss lady convention or something. There's some other thing they done moved on to. There is no mention of it. I checked the local records. The local records said they don't even have any. They still to this day, there aren't any building permits on that land. So nothing has been built on there. But if you go to the website, they have advertised. They tell you like, oh, if you want to build a house, here's some models that you can pick from. But ain't nothing built on it. There's nothing built on. Okay, you got the land, but you still got to bring in utilities. You got to bring in all of that. They don't have nothing's been built as far as I know on this land. Now, this is just one example. And then in the video, I talk about some of the other some examples that I was very familiar with. I'm not going to get into that in this video here, but then you got some of the people out here now that are talking about you got to flee Babylon. We got to move to Africa. We got to go there, because if you don't go to Africa, if you don't leave and go to Africa right now, judgment is going to come on you. And they showing all these pretty pictures of all these different houses and what your house could look like if you just send them a little bit of money. But then when you ask the deeper question, okay, well, how many projects have you done like this? Well, brother, see, I haven't done anything like this before, but see, we're just doing this under the anointing. Well, see, that's where you lost me, okay? Because the anointing they ain't gonna break the yoke. It's gonna break my bank, okay? So I'm not trying to have my bank broken, okay? Because the next step is gonna be, you're gonna be taken off somewhere, talking about you on a sabbatical. Meanwhile, I'm sitting up here living in a half a hut, and you talking about, yeah, this is the promised land, ain't it? And I'm just saying, this stuff has played out over and over again. Now, I'm sure that there is examples out there where you do have people who have put together, communities. A few families have gotten together and done that or whatever. Good for them. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying there also are a lot of bad examples as well. But the overarching point is, for now, we do live in a society where if you want to do that, then do it. You know what I'm saying? It's just as simple as that. You want to build a community and is not but made up of people like you. Okay, they were trying to do something like this in Texas. You remember? In Texas, there was a bunch of Muslims. They wanted to build, I don't know what they would call Muslim town. We just call it that. And the state of Texas was like, okay, no problem. But honey, it got out that they said, well, we're gonna be running Sharia law. Once they said that, they said, no, we ain't doing that. Then that's when that thing went national, and I think they canceled that. They said, nah, we ain't building that. You know what I'm saying? But there are many places, there are many examples I can give you. The area I live in right now, most of this part of the country, many of these little towns, they were started by Mormons. These are Mormon towns all out here. Now, they don't really get it. They don't be getting in my face. I mean, I had a few kind of knock on my door one time. I told my daughter, because I don't answer the door and I don't answer the phone. I don't do that. I just don't. I don't know you. I don't recognize the number. I ain't picking up. And if you knock on my door, I'm probably not going to answer. If I'm expecting somebody, I'll answer. If I'm not expecting you, deuces. And you just leave whatever it is at the door. And then, so anyway. But yeah, I don't mess with them. But they, generally speaking, I don't have any issues with them. There's a few local restaurants that they have. They make pretty good food. I've gone in there, and I remember one time my wife and we ordered some food, but when they were bringing the food out, Nicole, she was in the bathroom, and the young man, he brought the food out, and he was like, "Are you gonna eat all this yourself?" And I was like, "Nah, it's mine and my wife." He was like, "Oh." I was going to say, wow, that's really something. I mean, they act like I'm Black Cookie Monster or something. I was like, if I did that, oh man, they probably would have went off. And then I saw him out of the corner of my eye just looking. I said, yeah, we do eat hamburgers. Look, they probably thought, me eat hamburger, whatever. Stuff like that I don't care about. Again, don't spit in my food. I don't care. You know what I mean? Just make it. And we can have a good old conversation. That's it. But, as far as your belief and all that, y'all do you. You know what I mean? But that's about as far as I go with that. But I don't care. And these Mormons out here, they big. They big. There was out here in Arizona, I was reading about a town. I can't remember. I don't know if it's a town or a certain part of Phoenix. I can't remember. But basically, their water company was needing a plan for the future. And they said, we need more water. Well, guess who they had to reach out to? The Mormons, who own like a huge lake up in Utah. And they said, okay, can we cut a deal where we can get some of that water? And the Mormons got together and they said, okay. So when you want to talk about white towns There's plenty of them out here. Okay, so this little thing that the media is trying to get you to focus on, that's nothing. That's just trying to get a lot of clicks. But step out of your bubble. There's a lot of places out here that have their own life and the way they live and they do their things and all. That's them. I don't care. You know, what I'm focused on is fixing and building the things that as black folks, what can we do to make sure we are building self-sustaining communities? And I am convinced now that at this point, at this juncture, I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. I'm being as positive as I can, but I don't think it's possible right now, especially when and I mean healthy self-sustaining communities. I don't think it's possible right now because I think the problems that are within the culture, they have to be addressed. They have to be addressed. They have to be dealt with. And you can't just scoop up a bunch of random black people and say, hey, this is our land. It doesn't work that way because, you know, you got to know people. You got to build lasting relationships first before you take that next step. You know what I mean? There's a lot that goes into that. So that's just my personal take on it. But like I said, there are some good examples that are out there where people have done it. I saw this one. This is on a very small scale, but I think this is kind of what I'm talking about. I wish I had the video. If I had thought about it earlier, I would share it with you. I don't know where this was. I want to say it was in New England. Not sure. Some of y'all may be familiar with this. It's on TikTok. I saw it. It was a black family that bought it was a farmer's house. I think it was huge house. But it was a compound where every member of the family pretty much had their own section of the house. It's beautiful, beautiful. Black folks, they bought this thing. They were saying, okay, my sister, she's got her own house. My parents, they got their own house. I got my own house, and it was all connected and everything. And, you know, they share expenses and all that. And they got plenty of land where they can grow all kinds of stuff. I think that's wonderful. I think that's a wonderful idea. When you're working with your own family, I think it would work. When we're talking about black folks, if you're dealing with a small core group, that's why I say your network's got to be small. Don't think 20,000 people all stacked up in together in this day and age. It just isn't, because we got too many examples of that right now where it ain't working. So, you know, we just got to be real when it comes to that stuff. But anyway, bottom line, white folks, y'all want to build it, go big with that. Okay. Because, and that's you know, but, and you ain't got to worry about me trying to go up in there or whatever. That's you. I'm not mad at it. And neither should you. Build your own town and make it sustainable. How about that? Anyway, let's move it on to the next topic we got here. We have been talking about these doctors out here. You know, you heard me say earlier about this whole thing regarding COVID and my anger towards these preachers and doctors. I'm talking about black doctors that were not doing follow-up and warning people and telling people the other side of the, you know what, that they were strongly pushing. And they weren't giving us the behind the scenes stuff. Fortunately, I have been in contact with quite a few black doctors behind the scenes who were out here, and, you know, for the sake of their job and stuff, they had to speak to me in the low, you know, and there's some things I'm very aware of that some of them were doing to help protect black folks during that time. And I'm not saying anything because the feds ain't getting on me on this, but trust me, there were certain things that was going on. They were doing their job, you know, as a human to try to protect as many people as possible that was coming through their office. They were giving them the raw truth on it. But at the same time, they, you know, anyway, I'm going to stop there. Anyway, but yeah, there are some undercover brothers and sisters that are out there that are telling the truth or whatever. And but there's not enough. There should be plenty more. And those are the ones that my anger has been focused on, because unfortunately you got a lot of people who are more concerned about that bag they get from these pharmaceutical companies and from these insurance companies than telling black folks the truth. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't give two craps on what color your doctor is. At the end of the day, they all are getting paid by the same folks, and they're all motivated by the same color, and that is green. And so just because you got a black doctor don't mean that he or she is in your corner, because at the end of the day, they're going to give you the same poisons that Mr. Charlie is going to give you. I'm just trying to tell you, you know, you need to wake up. And that's why you got to be educated and know what questions to ask and educate yourself instead of just laying your whole life in their little hands. So brown hands, pink hands, it don't matter. But anyway, I want to share with you this video of this black woman who is a doctor, and she's talking about what's going on, what her experience has been with insurance companies. I hope you can really hear what she's saying because she's speaking a little fast, but hopefully you can hear what she's saying. And let's take a listen to what she's bringing up here. All right, let's go to this and let's hit play and let's take a listen. It's about 5 minutes long.
Hey y'all, Dr. Maka here, plastic surgeon, Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, insurance, y'all. We got to talk about it. And I just need to, I'm just going to explain to y'all my current situation and why I'm coming on here to just open up the discussion that it really honestly has been brought to the forefront by Dr. Elizabeth Potter, a colleague of mine. I'm a plastic surgeon. I take insurance for breast reconstruction only. I don't take it for anything else. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit, but I'm looking at this patient who is scheduled for surgery next month. And so basically what happens is you have a codes that you submit to an insurance company. These are called CPT codes. You submit to an insurance company that says, these are the procedures I want to do, and I'm sending it to you now so you can let me know if it's approved or not, right? Okay. Submitted a number of codes. Some got approved. Some of them, basically, I'm reading to y'all what this says. It says, this code does not require a pre-auth, and predetermination is not available for these codes from this payer. Let me interpret that for you. Basically, insurance is saying, you can do this procedure, but we may not cover it. Do you ever go, and oh, by the way, you're not going to know if, insurance saying also, you're not going to know if we're going to cover it until after the fact. Do you ever go to work and like leave and your employer tell you, I don't know if you're going to get paid for this. Let's just see how it goes. Would you show up to work? Like, would you have some questions? Mm-hmm. This is what you if y'all can understand, this is what healthcare right now is looking like. This is what doctors, surgeons are going through. And touching back on, many people are like, why don't you take insurance for this or this? It's not that I don't. Let me explain this. It's not that I don't want to take insurance. It's that I can't afford to take insurance. I'm going to give you another example. This was like a while ago. I take call for the ER, and I got called to the ER for a very complex laceration, which is a complex cut involving tissue, skin, exposed bone. My drive there probably 45 minutes. It took me about 3 hours to do this repair, 45 minutes home. So that's like 5 hours, right? Insurance's reimbursement for that, y'all, was $45. That's how much I was reimbursed. I'm gonna let y'all do the math. So it is like insurance is telling us how to practice medicine, and it's truly becoming a disaster. And in this situation, I'm gonna go back to the situation. They basically told me, this may not be approved. You can try it and see what happens. Now, the other thing about that is they're also saying, I wanted to use a certain type of mesh for this patient because she just needs that extra kind of more rigid support for her breast tissue. Insurance is also saying, well, you know, if you use that mesh, it may not be improved, but you can use all these other types. When I look at the list of all the other types, they are all meshes that are the properties are not going to do what I need. In other words, they have a more expansive force. In other words, they don't hold as much tension and they stretch out. So basically, insurance is trying to direct me how to practice medicine. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at this patient who is designed with a certain outcome. Like, the problems, this is just a small microscope of the big problems that are happening today in healthcare and insurance. And I'm seeing many amazing physician surgeons leaving medicine out of just frustration for all this. And the thing is, on the patient side, you don't realize all the things we're going through. It's really a silent battle because we just kind of suffer in silence or go through this in silence, and we don't say much, and we just kind of live with it. But what we have to realize is that there's a whole generation of doctors and surgeons coming after us, and we have to speak up because this has to get better, because our health, everything depends on it. And the thing is, I'm in private practice, so it's very different if you're in an academic setting or you're in a large group. You can negotiate with insurance so they can make certain reimbursements. But I'm in private practice. Like, it's me, y'all. And at the end of the day, I'm writing a check to pay the rent, insurance, team members, supplies, equipment, all the stuff. And so, like, it matters, and it'd be impossible to survive with just it'd be impossible. And when you're in a large group too, or academics, for example, you probably don't even, like, the interesting thing is you probably don't even notice what the reimbursements are because you're paid a certain salary no matter what. And you probably don't even realize the intricacies of all this happening. But us in private practice are seeing this and feeling this like all the time.
Oh man, yeah, lots to unpack there, but I'll just keep it very simple there. Again, for many people who aren't aware, is how much power these insurance companies have over doctors. In her case, the example she gave was that she's trying to do it one particular way, and she knows, okay, this is the product I need to use so that I can provide the best of care for this patient. But the insurance company's like, well, yeah, that's all cute and all that, but we got some over here. You can use this. Well, if she does that and goes with something that's lesser or not, that she thinks is really not going to do the job, what's going to happen? Well, you and I both know she's going to put that in and then give it a week, month, a year, or whatever. Then it's going to create some other problems that, again, and that's the whole point. They want to create other problems because that guarantees a repeat customer. See, these insurance companies, again, they're not about trying to heal people. Okay, they want repeat customers. Their whole thing is based off of repeat customers. So every time you go to a doctor, anytime you go into the hospital, their goal at the end of the day is to make sure that you're a repeat customer. They want to get you healed enough so that you still got to come back. And see, for me, after seeing that happen so many times, I said, enough is enough. Let's create our own solutions. And that's what we've been doing over at Samba Tree as a starter. It's definitely not the going to take care of everything, but is using it as a base of educating people and encouraging people. Hey, listen, these are things that there's a lot of things you can actually do for yourself. You just gotta start doing it. You know what I mean? And here's some examples. Here's some things you could do, and that's what we try to do on our platform here. But yeah, I mean, she's one of many people who have been saying this, and it's a very deep frustration for many medical practitioners who want to provide the best of care to their patients. But because of restrictions by the pharmaceuticals or the insurance companies or whatever, they're restricted to only giving them some stuff that probably ain't even half tested and all this other stuff. And, it's crazy. It's a mad world when it comes to that. Okay. So y'all just really take heed. If you're under any kind of medical care and all that, I'm not telling you to stop right now. I'm simply saying equip yourself with knowledge. Okay, don't just go by what they're saying and that's it. Well, I don't really know nothing. Nah, I'm just gonna go with you. No, you can't go in there. Now you take your brain and engage and find out. There's too many free tools out here for you not to do that, to educate yourself on what things you can do to get rid of that high blood pressure. What things can you do to improve, to get rid of that diabetes? Yes, these are things. Just because grandma had it, just because auntie had it, just because mama had it or dad had it, it doesn't mean you have to have a lot of this stuff. They tell you this stuff all the time, that this is genetic and you're going to always have it. You're going to always be obese. You're never going to lose weight. You're always going to do this stuff. The devil is a lie. No, you don't. No, you don't. Stop buying into that. Okay. I don't care how, Dwayne, I hear what you're saying, but I'm getting up there. I'm about 60 years old. I'm 70 years old. Is your breathing? Is your breathing? Well, that means you still got enough fight in you to fight these lies. Okay? Stop buying it. Let your ending legacy be the greatest legacy of your life. And that is when you stood up and said, enough is enough. Let me change the course of this stinking thinking that I've adopted because of these wicked people. You can do that. If you're going to finish well. You know what I mean? Not what these bastards out here telling you to do. Get away from that, okay? There's too much life in you for you to just accept what they tell you. Oh, you better take it, because if you don't, you're going to die. I'm going to die taking all this other crack cocaine stuff y'all giving me. Just smoke this pipe and, that's it. You'll be fine. And, well, doctor said I got to smoke the pipe. And next thing you know, you're going to be out there in, Philly like this, slumped over. Daddy, what daddy doing? You slumped over. You going like this, looking like a stop motion video. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing here. Y'all remember it was a story of this dude in this is in New York. New York, they were pushing this Amazon to it was a group that was pushing Amazon to have unions. And they and it was led by a young black man. And he was I don't know if he was successful with it, but he definitely made some inroads with this. Anyway, well, this same black dude, he's around. He popped up somewhere else. You would never believe where this dude popped up. And and just like, oh, here it is. These people be trying to mess with me. Anyway, here it is. His name was Chris Smalls. Well, guess where Chris Smalls is now? This is him right here. Let me get this video up here. This is Chris Smalls. This is the same dude. He was in New York City leading the charge for Amazon, to go to union. Now this is him now.
My name is Chris Smalls from the United States. If you are seeing this video, we have been intercepted at sea and have been kidnapped by the Israeli occupation forces or forces of the country complicit in Israel's genocide of the Palestinians. I appeal to my comrades, friends, family, to everyone to put pressure on the U.S. government to demand my release and the release of my comrades as soon as possible. Thank you.
Stay your ass over there. Stay your ass over there. Stay on over there. How you gonna jump from Amazon? Now you in the middle of the sea and you dealing with Israel and this whole thing stay on over there. Stay. But I wanted to show this because when you hear a lot of these people out here, you think that are, they're speaking for us, man. And a lot of these folks, man, they for real, they all ops. You know what I mean? They all ops at the end of the day. How you gonna jump from that to that? I mean, that's a big jump. How you gonna jump from you an Amazon worker, next thing you know, you on a ship going to Israel? And then I would say too about this whole Gaza thing. I may think about that. If there's enough interest, I would love to do that. I would love to do that if it's enough interest. I want to do a comprehensive video where we go top to bottom and we really look at Gaza, like just focus on that. Like really. I mean, I want to go all the way back in ancient history and I want to go all the way and I want to come all the way back today. So you have a long picture. My only concern is I don't know if people want me to do it in 5 minutes. That ain't going to happen. But I really want to do that because that people need to see why this whole Gaza thing is something that it's not what it seems. It's not something that is worth our investigation and our investment of our time and our efforts. The whole thing is one big show. So, they want to create this thing. Oh, is Israel versus, and they trying to get people to pick sides. Listen, they control both sides. The powers that shouldn't be, they control both sides. So you never want to pick a side when you see things like this, especially when it's like everybody's talking about it. You never want to pick a side because that's what they want you to do. So you got to stand back and just watch the fireworks or whatever, but don't engage in that. And people like this dude here, he wants to engage in it. And you go on ahead, stay on the boat. Stay on the boat, man. Stay on the boat. Ain't nobody, I ain't coming for you. Talking about I put pressure. I ain't putting no pressure on nothing. Anyway, let's see. Now, here's the final thing here. I told y'all this is probably one of the most important parts, but I'm gonna have to go through it quick. But anyway, just y'all help me. I'm gonna try to put as much. I'm gonna try to go through this and cover as much of it as possible in a way where. Hold on. Let me see. 3, 4. Okay, so while I'm talking here, I was on Twitter earlier today and I saw this post that showed me this image here that I'm about to put on the screen here. It is right here. Okay, so right here, this is 60+ million blacks and not one on the South African maths team. This is concerning. Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at is the South African math team. This is their team. Now, South Africa, again, South Africa. This is, it's not funny, but it is in a way. This is the South African math team. Now, you got all those blacks over there. And then one is on the math team. South Africa has a all black government. So you can't say that, well, the blacks, the government it's the government's fault. They're trying to keep blacks out of it. You can't say that because everything about black South African politics right now, if anything, they want to replace whites with black faces. They're doing it with the farms. But the math team, this is what their math team looks like. And out of all the African countries, this is the top math team on the continent of Africa. Okay, you can look all this stuff up. Now that's South Africa. This is the United States here. This is the United States team. You could take a look there, and as you can see, it's quite a number of Asian faces on there. All right, so that's telling you something there. Okay, so let me just move this, organize all this nice and pretty for y'all. Okay, so we got South Africa, we have America, and now let me bring up, because my next thing was I was interested in the Caribbean. I wanted to know the Caribbean. I said, well, you got a lot of black folks in Caribbean. What country in the Caribbean has the because you had the Pan-African math competition, and then you have the international math. It's called IMO. It's called the International Math Olympics. The International Math Olympics, that's the main one. That's the biggie one. The Pan-African, that's just amongst African countries in the Caribbean, right? So I wanted to know what was the top one in the Caribbean. It's Cuba. All right, so take a look at Cuba's team. Now, Cuba, yes, there are a significant number of black faces in Cuba, okay? But look at their math team. Okay? And I don't know what country this one is. Let me see real quick here. Oh, no, that wasn't it. I had another country there, but those are the main ones. Those are the main ones there I wanted to pull up. Now, you have Nigeria. They competed in the International Math Olympics, and they only received like one medal. I don't know out of how many years. They placed in third, I think some years ago, whatever. But other than that, most other African countries, they are nominal at best in their performance. But this is the face of mathematics right now. Now, why am I bringing this up? Why am I talking about math? Why is it so important? When you look at culture, when you look at ancient cultures in particular, the foundation of ancient cultures, be it African cultures, be it cultures in Europe, even here in the Americas and all of that, when you do a deep drill down, the part of the foundation of these cultures was an understanding of math. Now, what I'm telling you is this, is that before some people go there, we're not talking white people math, okay? We're just talking about an understanding of the importance of numbers and how they relate to the culture. For example, if you are trying to build a living space, living quarters, you're going to have some basic understanding of math, okay? Whatever that math is, those numbers are, you're going to have a basic understanding of it. It's not just you just eyeing things and it just comes together. No, you're going to have to measure things. So it doesn't matter what culture we're talking about. Math is a very critical part of any culture, very critical part. And so that's the foundation. So your culture must have a basic understanding of that. Now, fast forward to today, we live in a highly technological world where math is definitely just steering the boat in this whole world that we're in right now, particularly when it comes to AI and all of that. Now you can build things and all of this stuff, but the core of it, the people who are actually designing these things are people who have an understanding of mathematics. Okay, now this doesn't mean that you have to be a mathematician. That is not what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not suggesting that everybody has to be a mathematician, but having an understanding of math is a very critical part. You know, like when for example, there's a certain level of math or understanding of measurement when you're dealing with ladies or people who do sewing. You know, there's numbers involved in that. For people if you're an electrician or you're a builder, if you're a plumber, or things like that, there's always a level of mathematics because you're doing measurements and stuff like that. You got to have an understanding of this. But what I have been doing, you know, over some time is I've been actually looking at doing comparatives and doing deep dives, and this on my own time, looking closely, particularly Black culture. I'm talking Black American culture. And when you look at Black culture, unfortunately, because and many of you have seen this, you'll hear a lot of times, again, going to this whole FBA stuff when they will talk about how, you know, we're the foundation of everything and we are the blueprint and all this stuff. And then when you ask them, okay, well, what exactly are you talking about? They'll say, well, you know, it's our style, it's our flair, it's our dance, you know, it's the way we move, the way we talk, and the way we came up with rap music and all this other stuff. Okay, good. That's all good. And then, you know, you get a little bit deeper, because sometimes I like pressing people and really trying to get them to hear themselves. And I talk about inventions. I'll bring up inventions. And a lot of times they will say, you know, yeah, you know, we invented this, we invented that, we invented this, we invented that. There was a something I found. Did I take a screenshot of it? I don't know if I took a screenshot of it or not, but it was the GPS. The GPS. There was a article that was in a Black publication that said this. It was a Black woman who actually invented, their words, not mine, the GPS. You know, global positioning system, you know, the GPS you use on your phone. They say a Black woman invented that. And that is 100% false. When you look at a lot of the Black inventors, most cases, because, and I'm saying this as someone who's looked in it myself, okay? I would love to be able to say that, yeah, Black people, we did come up with all this stuff on our own. I would love to be able to say that. But all it takes is some honesty on your part and the willingness to look this stuff up on your own. And what you will find is that in many of those cases, these Black individuals played a very critical part in helping to develop these technologies. But they were one of many people in a long line of other people who did their part and contributed as well. So when when someone says that so-and-so invented something, in the minds of a lot of people, that puts in their minds that they came up with the whole concept and idea of GPS, but that is not historically accurate. It is not true at all. Now, there are some things that, you know, that Black people have invented, right? You know, we came up with it 100% ourselves. But I would say a hefty percentage of those that we're saying invented the internet or invented this and that or whatever. In many of those cases, these are individuals that contributed to, in a long line of other contributors, to making these products to where they are today. Should these people be applauded for their contributions? Absolutely. We should celebrate that 100%. I'm not saying remove them off and don't acknowledge. No, absolutely. These are individuals that our children should aspire to be like, right? And we should be encouraging that. But let's rewind a little bit. Like, again, be honest with the assessment, but then let's look at the educational level and the literacy and the math interests that we have today in what we call Black culture. I just read an article recently. This was in the state of Maryland alone. They looked at 20 some odd schools, and they said, and these are schools that made up of mostly Black kids, and the overwhelming majority of them, they said, could barely read above, I forgot the level. It was, most of them couldn't even read above a certain level. It was like a very low level. let alone math. So what does it say to us when we step back and we look at, when we're looking at Black culture, both yesterday and today? Let's be honest a little bit. Back then, you had what appears to be a higher percentage of Black folks who applied themselves to such a degree that they were able to contribute to existing inventions and to make a name and a mark on those different technologies and stuff like that. When you fast forward today, you don't see that. So what does that tell us? There's a decline. You understand what I'm saying? Of Black folks who are actually developing things that don't involve dancing and singing and music and swag and all that stuff. Because one of the main things is that moves a society forward is innovation. And innovation, a lot of times it involves a basic understanding of math and sciences and things like that. And unfortunately, it's not there when we look at today, when we look at particularly our youth within Black culture. We don't see it. Now, I also did a comparison between Black South Africans and Black Americans. Black South Africans have been on a decline when it comes to math and their interest in it for a long time. But then now they're saying they was able to level it off. But Black South Africans still are underperforming when you compare them to other groups. So, but if you were to hold them side by side between Black South Africans and Black Americans, it does show that Black South Africans have a slight edge when it comes to at least showing an interest in mathematics. You know what I'm saying? Let me read what Vince put up here. I'll make sure I'm missing anything here. So I'm trying to put it up on the screen. He said, I'm interested, to know where the funding comes from. They're the ones that decide everything from those pictures. It looks like the same tactic being recycled. I don't know what you're talking about. Let me know exactly the funding. What were you talking about? You might be commenting on something I talked about earlier. Let me know. Be a little more specific for me, okay? I'll be more than happy to address what you're talking about here. So and how does this translate? This translates into so much because it's not just about math. Math and having an understanding of numbers. When you go back into, especially when you look into ancient African history, you'll find that in ancient Africa, I can name it all kinds of places, both in the northern part of Africa and also in sub-Saharan Africa. They had a very deep understanding of star constellations and all kinds of stuff. These cultures, they were not dummies. You know what I mean? They understood how stars moved and all of that. How many Black folks today can you point to today that have an understanding of stars and galaxies and all of that? For real, think about it. And just let you know, just look it up. I can't remember, but I think they said in the next couple of days, there's going to be a major meteor shower. So I don't know where you have to be to see it, but just make a note of that. And because I know I'm out here, I'll be able to look at it, hopefully. But things like that, for example, if you hear about stuff like that, how interested do you see our children in learning about stars and galaxies and things like that? You know what I mean? Star patterns and knowing when the stars are moving and things like that. These are things our ancestors, they knew about this, and they were able to plan things like crops and, when certain things were going to happen and all this other stuff. Most people today don't even know any of that stuff. But this is part of your culture, your ancient culture. But this movement that we're seeing today, everybody don't want to have nothing to do with it. No, you're going to delineate yourself away from your own culture and your own history until now you're left with nothing. And now you just have this blank slate where you're excluding everything. Now, what math does show is the ability to use that part of your brain. And we've talked about this front part, it's your executive part of your brain, which, is the prefrontal cortex area that it takes what it gets from the amygdala, which is where it processes those emotions and all that. So when you see something on the news or whatever, or you hear about, oh, they're building a white town or whatever, and you get all in your emotions, well, by the time then the next thing, it goes to your amygdala, your prefrontal cortex, your executive area, where your executive says, okay, sit down, let's talk about this. Okay, now, is this really important? I mean, is this really something, And so what we're finding is that there's a number of people who don't have this part of their brain. The executive is sleep. It's underdeveloped. We talked about the gray matter and the white matter and all that stuff. So when you are not challenging or engaging this part of your brain, it literally it shrinks. It's shrunk, right? And so this is why you have a lot of people walking around with an overstimulated amygdala, where they're always very emotional. Like you hearing all of these stories, I could talk about them all week, of different stories of different people just going off on just dumb stuff. I'm talking about black folks just going off, tearing up stuff, breaking up stuff, setting things on fire, stabbing people, all this stuff. And we look at this and we think, okay, that's just another crazy person. No, it's showing that there's something that's not right here. And not saying it requires pills. It doesn't require you being on the couch, but we got to first acknowledge that something isn't exactly right. Okay. And there are things that you can do to correct that. And we've talked about that before. Okay. But what I'm trying to bring attention to is when you're dealing with a community of people who have very little regard for math, what that shows is that this is a community that can be easiest controlled. This is, I want to say something. Let me read what Mr. Wu Love. Let me see what you're saying here. I am a licensed electrician. I'm dealing with our young people within the trade. You are right. The reading is around 5th grade level, and the math is adding and subtraction. Yeah, it's true. And hats off to you for doing your part, doing what you can. Let me share with you, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, and this is it. But I don't know if y'all have been watching, any of y'all who like science fiction. I absolutely love science fiction. There's a show that's on Apple TV. It's called Foundation. And I remember when it first came out, I tried to get through it as much as I could, but after a while, I think it was a certain part of the season, I was just getting lost. I was like, okay, I can't, I'm gonna have to catch this on the flip. And then it wasn't until a little bit later on, my son came to me. He was like, I'm watching this show on Foundation, and it's actually pretty good. I said, oh, you passed through? He said, yeah, I'm pushed through, and it's pretty good. And I was like, okay, cool. So I said, maybe I'll watch it. And I sat down and watched it. And it's very good. And it's very good for a lot of reasons. And it even inspired me to do a project I'm working on right now. I'll tell you all a bit later. But anyway, without giving you a whole lot of details, I'll just say this. Okay, the guy that wrote it, his name is Isaac Asimov. Okay, he's a Jewish guy. And you'll find that in a lot of these science fiction, he's referred to as like a deep sci-fi writer. Like he gets in deep. It ain't Star Wars where it's like you got the good guy and the bad guy and that's it and all this stuff. But he gets into some deep stuff in his sci-fi. And he also wrote I, Robot too. And so anyway, very really like it, like his stuff. And in this show, they basically talk about how the universe is basically broken down into numbers. Right? It's broken down to numbers like mathematics and all that. So it's heavy on the mathematics stuff, but they do it in a very entertaining way. But, they bring in that mathematics part, which I really like. And anyway, he in this show, in the story, there's this guy. Like I said, again, I'm skipping over a lot. So people who are familiar with the story, I'm skipping over a whole lot. But basically, I'm at the part in the series right now where one of the main characters, he has how can I even explain this? Because even explaining him, you got to explain something. Basically, you have this kingdom that's ruled by 3 brothers. They're all related. Okay. And the person that's their nanny, quote unquote, is this woman who's actually a robot. Okay. And how she came to be was that you had a race of robots, right? And then the robots basically went to war with the humans, and fortunately the humans, they just overcame the robots, all of them except one, which was this lady, and they saved her. Well, one day, one of the three brothers came across her and woke her up and said, hey, I love you and I want you to help me rule the kingdom and all that stuff. And she's like, oh, okay, I will do it or whatever. But, you know, she doing her little witchcraft behind the scenes, right? So anyway, fast forward. So again, I'm skipping over a whole lot. So one of the brothers, he basically is checked out. He's like, man, I ain't trying to be no ruler. I'm trying to get out of here because this whole thing is whack. And so he, in the show, he has a black girlfriend. And they got some black folks in there, but this is one that really, you know, got the closest to power like this. And they both doing drugs. I'm like, okay, this is the only time you're going to bring it up. But they had another one. She was another one. They got rid of her, so she didn't last long. But anyway, but this girl here, black woman, that's his little girlfriend, and they do drugs together and all that. Anyway, he planning on making an escape. And then he told the black girl in the show, he said, hey, I'm just letting you know that I want to let you know something. He said, now this woman, she's actually a robot. And the black woman was like, oh my gosh, really? I thought they got rid of all of them. And he was like, no, she's the only one. And so the black woman in the show, at least, I don't know in the book if she's black or not, but interesting. But anyway, she started changing because at first she was like, okay, we're going to escape this planet. But when she found out that this woman was an actual robot, all of a sudden she started changing. And then she was like, well, no, I don't think we need to leave. I think we need to stay and all this stuff. And the guy was like, what are you talking about? Why are you switching up on me like this? And so anyway, long story short, she kind of gives a cue to the robot. It's like a hands gesture to let her know something. And that something was letting her know that, hey, I'm one of your followers. Okay, here's the backstory. There was a race of people. She is a representative of this race of people. Now, I want you to follow me on this. She is a representative. This black woman is a representative of a race of people who worship the robots. They saw them as divine, so they worshiped them. And so this black woman went behind the scenes to tell this robot, hey, listen, I'm just gonna let you know this joker here, he planning on escaping this planet. She thought she was doing him a favor. But in reality, the woman was like, this robot woman was like, okay, cool, thank you for letting me know. So it come to find out, this robot, as a thank you, she wiped the memory of this entire race of people so they would never remember who they were. And they would never remember any of these conversations. And I think some of them, she ended up killing them. So what it came out to be is that it was because of these people's religion, their blind religion, they forgot who they were. And they paid a heavy toll for this. And this group of people, they were just known for their religious belief. They weren't known for anything else. So what I'm saying is that when you look at the totality of black folks, regardless if it's black Americans or you're looking at Africa or whatever, when it comes to not necessarily mathematics, but, you know, using your brain in such a way where you're actually are logically thinking things all the way through. Math is one of the basic ways you can do that. When you are not engaging that part of your brain, you are literally being left behind in the progression of what we see happening today. That is literally what is happening right now. What we're witnessing is that I don't care if you're on the black side or black American side, FBA side, African, Caribbean, it doesn't matter. Collectively, when you sit back and you look at all the numbers, there are numbers within these groups that are being left behind. And this is the part I want to drive home with, is that, you know, you need to make sure that your children or even you know, get an appreciation for numbers. Behind me, I don't know if you saw it. I shared on one of my videos. I went and bought, some of you people of a certain age. You remember the days when you putting together, you see your auntie and them putting together one of those big jigsaw puzzles. I went and got me one of those because why? I'm trying to exercise my brain. They were on to something. I also been teaching myself how to use both hands. I'm a right-hander. Now I'm using my left hand, so I can use both of my hands right now. And I've been writing with my left hand, and it's clearing. It's getting way better now. I feel a lot more comfortable writing with my left hand or my right hand. And what that does is it strengthens this part of my mind. You're opening up areas of, because your right hand is connected to the left side of your brain, and your left hand is connected to your right side of your brain. Your right side of the brain is where you get, you see big picture. You're looking at things from different angles and all that. I even did a video where I talked about why this system insisted that we use our right hands. They used to tie students' hands to the table to make sure that they only wrote with their right hands. Why is it? Because they wanted your left side of your brain to be active. Why? Because your left side of your brain is where you follow order. You follow instruction. Okay? So you can control people easily as long as this is engaged. But see, this part here, your right side of your brain is where you're going to be. That's the part of your brain where you're asking questions and you're wondering, okay, we've been doing this for 20 years. This ain't working. Why isn't this working? And we gave you the whole history in that video. I talked about how religious institutions going all the way back used to mandate that you use your right hand. I even took you in the Bible and showed you how the Bible even mandated this and always equated the right hand as being good and the left hand being bad. We talked about this in great detail. Go back to that video. We gave you the whole history of it. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So I would highly encourage you to challenge yourself. I mean, if you're going to use things like ChatGPT or whatever, challenge it, asking, hey, give me some quizzes on stuff on prime numbers. And, that's what I'm learning now is how high because that's what I learned on foundation is how high can I do my prime numbers in my head and, doing that kind of stuff and just challenge yourself in things like that. My man said he's an electrician, get one of them little, now this is getting more in electronics, but if you get one of those little breadboards, a little small, you know what I'm talking about, get a little breadboard kit, and teach yourself, how to build basic circuits. You know what I mean? Things like that. There's all kinds of things you can do, but challenge yourself. Even if you're older, even if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, go on Amazon, get these old kits and teach yourself some of these basic things, how to turn a light on, how to build a switch and all of that stuff. I'm telling you right now, by doing that, you're going to see it impact you in other areas of your brain and how you process a lot of these things, these news stories that come about, along our news feeds and stuff. So that's my encouragement to you on that. But that is all I have. And I really appreciate each and every one of you being here and taking your time and being here with us. What I'll try to do is later on this evening, I'll chapter this video out so that if you want to come back and kind of go to a certain section, I'll just make sure I have that for you. Okay. But other than that, that is all I have. So I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. You guys take care, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Have a great day, evening, whenever it is that you're watching. Take care. Remember, Cyber Tree, 20% off. Make sure you take advantage of it now. Take care now. Bye.